Okay, so a couple of words about my research interests. This is about computational physics, particle transport theory, numerical analysis, and of course there are a lot inside, and I will talk about this, and I will talk about some projects that I do with my students. And of course those interests, they were formed by my background and experience, and I got a degree in physics from Moscow Institute for Physics and Technology, and then PhD in physical and mathematical sciences from Institute for Mathematical Modeling, which is a research institute in the Russian Academy of Sciences. Then I worked as a research scientist at Keldysh Institute of Applied Math and Institute for Mathematical Modeling. And then I moved to Texas A&M, where I was visiting assistant professor. And after that, I arrived here, and I'm still here. So now about computational physics. It's huge. So, but there is some interesting area where we model interaction of particles and matter. And first of all, my primary interest is neutron transport and photon transport, or so-called radiative transfer. But there are tons of things that under this last bullet, and things that my colleagues discuss here, they can also be involved here, for example, because equations and methods that we develop can be used for phonon transport. You can use this method to simulate semiconductors. You can do atmospheric sciences problems. There are tons of different things, and that's about applications. And of course, if you take these two first bullets, then main applications, of course, nuclear reactor simulations or systems that have neutron transport, and of course, high energy density physics, like for example, radiative hydrodynamics, inertial confinement, fusion, etc. So, and here is now a list, quite incomplete list, what drives all these things and why we still publish papers and do research, and why our students have some way to get degrees. First of all, it's all about high dimensionality of particle transport problem. So if you saw the equations, there was like 7 independent variables. But then it's about multiple scales. In reality, you never solve just one transport equation. You always solve something within some framework of physics, and it's all about multiple scales in time, space, and energy. Then all those equations are strongly coupled, and they are non-linearly coupled. And interesting thing that you end up having set of equations, tons of equations. You can always add more when you add physics, and this is there's another bullet, so we keep adding physics. And this involves equations of completely different times, and this creates some challenges, or this is important. Then if you go and look at different ranges of energies, for example, for neutron transport or radiative transfer, you will see that physics are so different and characteristic behavior is significantly different, and you need to treat everything uniformly. You want to have one method that does everything for you. It's really true. It's not that easy, so that's why there are a lot of analysis, and this is the part of numerical analysis that we do. And everything, of course, is driven by dream to get as better resolution as possible. It's never enough. So we get better computers, we want to have better resolution. So it goes all the way. I mentioned that we keep adding physics because the better computer power, the more physics we can put, and we can do, for example, you can calculate material properties and then solve even better models. And at the end, which is also important, high performance computers keep changing. Architecture keeps changing. And our colleagues at national labs, they rewrite their codes once in 5 years. And then they need new methods that work exactly on that architecture, and this architecture changes. So that's why this drives algorithm methods, and methods that long time ago were quite useless, now they turns out to be quite good for doing this on very interesting machines. So now, when you do some method development, so those are main goals. You want accuracy improved, efficiency of numerical algorithm improved, and then it's all about how well you simulate physics, reproduce physics, and there are a lot of details into this. And this is another list of interests that, my interest. So if you do particle transport and computational physics development, so it's all about discretization of PDEs. Then you need methods for, thank you. Methods for multi-scale problems, you use methods. You need to come up with some acceleration methods for various iteration process because it's a large system of equations. Then you need methods that can deal with solving coupled physics problems. There is also homogenization theory involved in a lot of problems, especially reactive physics. You work with some asymptotic analysis because these can help you to understand how you approach some limits that characterize physics, specific physics phenomena. Domain decomposition methods. Again, it's not the complete list. And projects. First of all, methods for large-scale neutron driven by interest in full-scale neutron transport calculation in the core. And what we try to do here is to address the fact that you have extremely sophisticated structure and you always want to have more groups to resolve everything as good as possible. And if long time 10 groups were enough, now people go in more and more, and like scale has 44 and 238 as a standard. Chiasma has even more. So then the question is, how do you solve this problem with that many groups? And what we can do is we can do some interesting illustration of just illustration that what kind of, there is a lot of how to form the equations on different grids, how to walk through these grids, etc., etc. And an expert in this is Luke with my work here. So another group of methods is for transport in complicated, which is geometry is related to symmetry. So if you have something like this, inertial confinement fusion, your target is initially symmetric, and then whatever happens also at the beginning quite symmetric. So you can assume certain rotational symmetry, and you can try to simulate this using this. It's a 2D problem. It's difficult to do it. But then you have turbulence over there. So this RZ geometry that accounts for rotational symmetry can help you. But unfortunately, the transport equation is quite ugly in this case, and that's why it involves a lot of sophisticated methods. And the mesh never comes from our interest, so it all comes from hydrodynamics. And we want to do adaptive grid. This is just an illustration of a kind of grids we would like to do. And again, applications, high energy density fission, inertial confinement fusion, applied to physics problems. And Jesse Jones is the expert in this, so he works with me with this. Now, another project on now coupled problems. Thermal radiative transfer, how much? Okay. Just one, okay. So here we couple radiative transfer equation with energy balance, and it is a toy problem for the full radiative hydrodynamics. We can study how methods work, and we will know then how it will work problem. So again, applications, high energy density physics, and a new project is about models with reduced order, reduced order modeling for radiative hydrodynamics, and there are a couple of parts, thermal radiative transfer and radiation hydrodynamics. We'll take some interesting methods, multi-level method that can reduce dimensionality of the problem, combine them with formal mathematical approaches like proper orthogonal decomposition and proper generalized decomposition, and we will go and try to help our colleagues at Sandia National Lab. And I collaborate with Oregon State here on developing reduced order models for their type of problems, and I have a couple of students who work with me, Joseph and Pedram. And so to be continued. So this is just a short list. Thank you.